I'm Sujit, co-founder at SDeG. I founded the firm with my wife, Aruna Sujit. We have a third associate in the firm who's been with us for many years. Essentially at the office, we'd like to imagine architecture as a series of puzzles, really. So the problems and the projects that come into the office are really opportunities for us to solve and also bring in the idea of the unexpected. So it's really the questions behind the project, or the questions as we solve the project, are as invigorating as the outcomes themselves. So when a client comes into the office with a project, we're really thinking that we should be able to offer them something beyond the formulaic, and that's really what excites us on a day-to-day basis. The client, although he grew up in Bangalore, he's been away for a very long time. He lives in Doha, and he's obviously very aspirational. He's in his early 40s. And I think what we really had to do at the outset is to define a brief for the project. And this was interesting because he didn't know what exactly he wanted, and we really had to counsel him in some sense to try and understand what sort of spaces he was looking at and how we should respond to the needs of his family. So the plot is located in a typical residential neighborhood. It's an upmarket residential neighborhood, so high land values, and it's a corner site. So if I just draw how this works, so there's one road here, and there's another road here, and the plot sits like that, and it's got neighbors on these both sides rather. So and further down the road is a really prominent road there. So this is our site. It's essentially almost a square, but it's got a little taper on this side. And there's a little tree in the corner there, which adds a lot of value in the eventual outcome as far as the elevations are concerned. Now, the north is up here. So that's the east. And this will in some sense determine the way we imagine the entry experience and how we move and navigate into the building. Our endeavor was really to focus on this much of the building, to make it feel like it's a kind of hovering box of just 2 levels, and to take that away so it's perceived like that, and to make it feel like it's essentially all blank on this side with a large scoop out of varying degrees. And on the top level, what we've done is actually the edges of the bedroom lifted it up by about 2 or 3 feet, and that's what allows for this really tall glazing here, which adds a lot of character to the facade, we believe. So the scales of the materials are also then constantly varying. So on the front, we've used copper laminates, we've used polished black plasters, there's MS and steel and glass. And all of that is also kind of constantly shrinking and expanding, as you'll see here. So it's of this size, and then sometimes it's of this size, and sometimes it's of a different size altogether. So by puncturing it in, by pushing it in further, it's really tried to sort of reduce the depth of the house only in the center, and that's how the light kind of pushes into the house all the way to the back. Talking about the program itself, essentially, like I said earlier, this is a squarish site with this one taper here. So what we had to do immediately is kind of regularize the plinth, and that in some sense was dictated by principles of Vastu. So, which was not bad because we ended up with eventually a nice clean box, and we also tried to make that kind of hover above the ground, and we'll explain to you how we did that. But what we've done is kept the ground as free as possible and created a very little program on the ground floor over here with an access that goes on the side. And then we have an entry from here off the street, which is more gradual, and a little court here that sort of highlights that entry experience. So in some sense, we have the tree on this side, and we have a little bit of green here. And all of this is kept free for both parking. It doubles up as that ground floor entertainment space. We weave through the space like that, and that's an intentional delay to sort of make the entry experience a little more gradual. It helps that we have to enter the house from the northeast. On the ground floor, we have a little office space for him that sits here, And we have a little elevator here. So this doubles up as a lobby. So he uses the office and he goes through his private lobby to go up to the rest of the house, and some little quarters, etc. that happen to sit below the mid landing over here on this side. So that's back of the house functions. What we've also done on the ground floor is highlighted the edge, which is tall. So not only does it provide him the privacy and the security that he requires, but also when you look at the building on these two sides, it almost feels like the building is sitting on a grey pedestal, because it essentially is a grill with a lot of perforation, so it allows the light and visibility in, but it essentially feels like the building is sitting on top of it. So all of this goes up to the base of the first level. And on the upper level, you start getting a sense of the diagram of the plan, which is really all of this space in the middle. So this is how, so most of the living areas and all of this is fairly fluid, and in fact this is an open kitchen here, so it kind of bleeds into this space. But the highlight of the house is really in this area here, which literally kind of reaches out onto the street. This is that road in the front. As we'll explain the form, you'll realize that this sort of keeps varying in plan and in section. So this is where the program is compresses the space in the middle, and then there's a lot of activity in the outside, mostly outdoors, in terms of balconies and step out areas, decks and so on. So this is cook, this is sleep, this is wash, and that's the climb up, and this is a whole lot of utilities and circulation. So the program essentially on level 1 and level 2 sort of repeats. What then becomes interesting is we always imagine the building, because there's a lot of volume that's occupied by the functions within the house. We thought that the house should not be perceived as being very bulky on the outside, and we required the 3 floors to accommodate all of the client's requirements. So on the next level, really the house steps back and occupies only so much, and that's the level on top. And the client then gets 2 terraces here. So this much space within the bedrooms on this level are suddenly then elevated. So you get a kind of sectional quality within the bedroom. So inside the bedrooms, because we've elevated the front of the house but kept the program at the back on the upper level, we're looking at 12 feet here, and we're looking at something like 10 here, or maybe 10.6. So this sort of bumps up and then creates a different kind of space within the bedroom, which then sort of changes the sectional quality of the building altogether. And it's beyond that, then we have these step out spaces beyond this volume that we're able to move out of the building. Essentially on the inside, we've opted for a fairly warm set of tones for the residents. So this includes marble, 2 tones of marble. We're looking at a white and beige combination, and this bleeds onto the walls in some spaces. We're very conscious of the fact that the house needed to feel, it's a compact home, and essentially the floor plate is compact, even though the overall area is a lot. It was important that we chose materials that didn't feel very overbearing. So keeping that in mind, there's a use of a very let's say a mid-range tone for wood, some cement plaster finishes, and there are whites and there's steel. As we move up into the sleeping spaces, we've brought in more warmth, so the floor turns into wood there as well. The same thing we've carried even into the washrooms. We haven't really differentiated, so to speak, between the palette in the living areas, sleeping areas, and the washing areas. And there's a lot of glass on the front, so a lot of the indoor quality is dictated by the kind of light that comes in from the front edge. And although we're grabbing most of it from the south side, but so by creating the necessary depths, we were able to really understand or dictate the kind of light that fell into the various parts of the house. So it starts getting grading from really bright to mid-bright to almost a cozy, a diffuse light quality towards the back of the house.